I love Ali McCoist, but I haven't a clue what he was going on about. He's wanted to change the laws of the game and everything last night. Incredible.
It's a red card all day long. There's nothing wrong with the law. It doesn't need changed. The late equaliser that sends Motherwell into the top six.
Why would people want to change that? You don't get 6 points for winning a game of football, mate. It's 3 points. 3 points to max.
Alright, literal Kris. Thanks for
3
that.
points to max you can get.
Thanks for pointing that out. Welcome to the warm-up, brought to you by William Hill, a proper supporter of the SPFL. I'm solo at this side of the desk. They've all deserted me, but luckily I've brought in 2 babysitters to look after me. Keepers right, Kris Boyd and James McFadden. How are you both?
Very, very good. Yeah?
Are you well? Yeah,
very
good.
Well,
Yep, I'm
well.
fine. I'm a bit lonely. I feel a wee bit detached. It feels a bit different.
Put a chair up there.
We could just all sit on the same side of the
Might not
desk.
go round there with the size of the games.
Like when you ever go out for a dinner and sit on the same side of the table. It's always weirdos that do that, isn't it? You always got to sit across.
Oh, aye.
So, like, keep the eye contact with you two, keep you in check. We happy to go?
We're here to talk about football. We're talking about getting it for meals.
That's rich for you, for coming from you who likes
don't want to talk about football. We're a diet. Let's go.
There's a sentence you never thought you would hear. A 0-0 for Rangers last night. Who would have thought we'd have so much to discuss from a 0-0? A good result, obviously.
Yeah, I think the way the game played out, when you look at, you've effectively played 90 minutes with, in fact, even more than 90 minutes with 10 men. And, the last 6 minutes with 6 men. We're getting there eventually. And the last 6 minutes with 9 men, obviously with Dujon Sterling going off as well. But I thought, I don't know about you, James, but I thought Rangers were comfortable enough within, the even when Proper went off. There was a couple of times you get down the sides, but the cutbacks were poor from Atletico Club. And, I thought Rangers defended pretty or reasonably well. Probably didn't offer as much as an attacking threat because of, obviously the sending off, but it's given Rangers a fighting chance in that second half, and in the second leg. And the second half for me was just a case of digging in there, making sure you give yourself an opportunity to go over there, because we've seen Rangers on the road. You just never know what's going to happen. And again, last night, you look at the performance from the weekend to last night, everybody was in it together. Everybody, if somebody was out of position, they were over, they're covering, they were helping their teammate. Whereas, domestically, we've not been seeing that for a long period of time now. And, again, Rangers last night looked like a team.
Yeah,
Probably felt like a win in the end, didn't it, with everything that, all the adversity they had to overcome.
I don't think many people be that surprised that Rangers get a good result. Having to face, the adversity, getting the man sent off early. And we all spoke about, or everybody, thought that it was going to be, a tough game, which it was a tough game. But as Kris says, I thought what they had to do is they done it really well, which you have to do when you go to 10 men, and they would have been, I think, as the game went on, thinking we're fine in this game. We're quite comfortable. I'm not getting moved about. They weren't getting dragged all over the place. They were allowed to kind of sit in their shape. And I thought it was a really strong performance, given their domestic form, their home form even, how bad that's been. To get a clean sheet, I think, is massive. Whether they've got 10, 11, 9 men, it doesn't.
That's what I was going to say. Would you have taken a 0-0 before the game?
See, before the game, genuinely, I thought a 1-0 defeat would have been you never say you're happy about a defeat. A 1-0 defeat wouldn't have been a bad result for Rangers because of how well they play away from home. So a 0-0 is a brilliant result.
Rangers have been at home recently.
Exactly. So I think that definitely a 0-0 is a brilliant, something to go away, because all the talk coming into the game is the home form, the poor home form. Athletic Club, they're a great side, doing well in La Liga. They've beat some of the big teams, Copa del Rey winners last year. They're a good side. So the fact that you get a 0-0, you get a clean sheet, Nico Williams and Aki Williams, all the talk is about how good they were. To get a clean sheet, to have something to hold on to, get into a game where now the mentality switches to say, well, Rangers are good away from home. Would anybody be surprised if Rangers get a win? So they can actually look at it. And all the talk this week about the changes to the team and how it's unacceptable. Barry obviously going hard after the game at the weekend, doubling down on Monday, doubling down again on Wednesday. I think that the outlook now, I know that Aberdeen at the weekend, that's probably a good game. Yeah. You would say sometimes, you have to travel and it's going to be a tough game. But the way Rangers are playing at the minute, I would say that's probably a good game, because it's a big game and they tend to raise their game for the big games. and then they can go into the game on Thursday with confidence that they can get a result. The pressure now flips onto Athletic Club to go and get a win, because I'm pretty sure in their press they won't be getting much praise for the performance last night.
And I think because of the way it happened as well, with 10 men and coming up against a team that they probably expected to beat with 11, they struggled to break them down. But I thought Rangers defended really, really well. They never, as James touched on, they never moved them about, and there's a couple of times they get in down the side, but that's going to happen, especially with the talent they've got in the wings. I'm going to be honest, I was really disappointed with them last night. I thought, I thought they dealt with Rangers physically. Any time it went up with Dessers and I felt as if he had a couple of little half sniffs off the back. The one he swivelled and got his shot away. There was a couple of long balls. But Rangers, in terms of that long ball, when they tried to use it, it's been effective in Europe, especially away from home. But you kind of get the feeling last night that they were physical enough to deal with it.
I think it's hard as well though when you've got the man less.
Yeah.
So you would have maybe somebody else up support, where because you're only really having to deal with one, and the pass had to be perfect.
Yeah.
At times it was going wide to Hadji, and Dessers was inside. So even if you don't need to win it when it goes up there. You just need to have that threat or somebody to pick it up if the defender wins it. Somebody in support. Czerny was a bit wide, so it was because I think you.
The two wide ones had to help defensively, the fullbacks as well when it changes. But I think for Rangers, in terms of obviously set up hard to beat with 3 at the back, that changes inside 13 minutes, and then you're a back 4. But then your two wingers where they obviously play that box with Czerny and Hadji in front of, it was Bailey Rice and Raskin last night, but they ended up coming back as a flat 4 across the middle of the pitch and had to help out defensively. But Barry spoke about they were going to be hard to beat, it might not be pretty. We've seen that from Rangers in Europe and they've had success. I don't think he doesn't need to tell anybody that that's the way they're going to play, because we all expected that, because
it's an ideal scenario, isn't it?
You can't keep losing 2 goals a game and expect to win them, especially at this level.
Because if that was an away game and you get 0-0 and they're coming back to Ibrox, given what we've been speaking about, the home form, and you're expecting a reaction, it's strange to say that you probably feel better going away with
just
0-0
because of the way Rangers are at the moment.
I think it suits them how they play.
They're suited to counter-attack.
And then even last night as well, although obviously they weren't in a position to win the game, it does feel like all their best stuff does come sort of off the ball when they're up against it, when they're an underdog. So but that's bringing tactical side in, even maybe psychological as well. That kind of, like you said, almost
easy.
Being the underdog.
It's easy when you're the underdog because your main focus is on your tactical side of the game, where you need to be when they have the ball. If somebody goes and presses about closing the gaps, and it's hard physically because you don't have the ball. You're not really getting a reward that you would normally have, especially for a team that's expecting to be on the ball and dominating. But the easy side is making sure you're switched on, and all you're concentrating on is your positioning, where you are.
What's my job right at this
off the ball?
minute?
Where is my teammate? Where do I need to be in relation to that? And make sure that you don't concede, you don't get that pass inside. If the ball goes wide, can you get tight to the cross? Can you double up? Can you win your header? Can you be in a position to pick up the second ball? So all that is stuff you can work on and easier to concentrate on, rather than the time to run forward or put an extra a body forward. That time, do you play that killer pass? When is it the right time to drive forward? That's the harder part that Rangers have been struggling with. So the easier part for them has been organised, been hard to beat, and maybe offering something to counter, which probably went when they lost.
What did you make of the red card? Because when it comes so early, it's like a massive moment that doesn't necessarily, it doesn't at all influence whether it's the right or the wrong decision. What did you make?
It's a red card all day long. I mean, let's not get away from it. It's a poor pass to start with. Then all of a sudden Balogun takes that step forward, and then when Iraqi Williams, when the ball comes into him, it's a great first touch. You can see his body position. Balogun slides in, mistimes his tackle. He rides that one. Then the next proper just wipes him out. When you move the ball or the incident forward, 2 or 3 yards, then all of a sudden he wouldn't be sent off because of the double punishment. But that, it doesn't matter. It was outside the box. He wipes him out. He's going to get his shot away. As I said, it's a red card all day. I love Ali McCoist, but I haven't a clue what he was going on about. He's wanted to change the laws of the game and everything last night. Incredible.
I'm noting that down for the next time he suggests that the laws should be changed.
Never change the laws, mate. Never change the laws.
In a couple of weeks.
Depends.
No change the laws.
No, like you can nitpick with certain laws and say, it's hard. Like we spoke for years about the handball and how something needs to change on that. I think this is the right one.
Well, it was brought into increase fairness so that you don't get the double jeopardy.
There's nothing
in the
wrong
box.
with it. That's been the law for years. That forget the fact that if he's in the box, it's not a red card. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. The foul happens outside the box. He's going to get his shot away.
Yeah.
He's denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity. So the question is not, is it a red card? You have to look at Proper's decision to lunge in knowing that he can see Balogun, who would normally be covering him. He can see Yilmaz. He knows he's the last man to make that challenge. Well, it's desperation, but and his experienced player, it's an experienced player. Stay on your feet, force him wide, try and get something on him as he takes his shot, so he's not getting a clean shot away, and keep yourself in the park. It's a red card all day long. There's nothing wrong with the law. It doesn't need changed. It clearly doesn't need change.
Would have made a difference.
We're all in
Kelly
agreement.
and the sticks would have saved it.
Well, this is the thing, because all week that was the debate. Barry Ferguson promised changes, and really that's what everyone was interested in, because he had to change Suter and Diamande because they were suspended. With no disrespect, Yilmaz replacing Jefty, that's not a headline grabbing change.
But Yilmaz had been playing, so you know what I mean. As I said, I think Jefty came in at the weekend there, and he wasn't that good, was he?
That's what I mean. You make the odd tweak here, but there were two that stood out in the goalkeeper. What did you think before? Did you expect the change to be made? And then obviously, what about what he did during the game?
It's one of those ones you could sit here and discuss, the pros and the cons. I think obviously Jack Butland he's made a few mistakes recently. He's no doubt he's Rangers' number one goalkeeper. He has been now for a period of time. But there comes a point when if you are saying to your backup keeper that you're an excellent goalkeeper, you're training well, you're doing everything properly. There needs to be a pathway. There needs to be an opportunity for him to get his chance. And if he didn't get it, you're probably losing Liam Kelly. On the flip side, if you drop Jack Butland, there's a good chance that he's not going to mentally be in a good place for the next period of time. But listen, that's the life of a goalkeeper. Jack Butland will know that he has probably been waiting in the past on other goalkeepers make mistakes for him to get in, and he's got his opportunity. Liam Kelly's the exact same. When you go back and you look at when Liam Kelly came in a few months ago, when Jack Butland was injured, he didn't do anything wrong. I mean, apart from that one at Hibs where you think, could he have came? Did he make the right decision to...
that's not a howler, is it?
That's not a howler. My point being, he never done anything wrong. I mean, beat Aberdeen 3-0, had clean sheets here, clean sheet against Celtic. So there wasn't
it's different,
a big risk as such. He's a good goalkeeper. He's played a lot of games. He was in the last Scotland squad. So his confidence will be high. He's just sitting there thinking to himself, I need this chance.
What did you think he would do before the game?
I genuinely thought he would keep Jack Butland
because of Fenerbahce.
I think so. I think just because it's... Look, I'm not saying he can't make big decisions because he clearly did it. I think that it's... When you make that decision, it's the biggest game of Rangers season at that point. So you're saying that the position now is Liam Kelly's to lose before he does anything, which that's football, that happens. I thought he would maybe go with Jack Butland because, as you say, his form in Europe. You're talking about Liam Kelly coming in before. That's the life of a number two goalkeeper. Be ready to be called upon, knowing that even if you play 3-4 games, you might more likely you're going back out because if it's an injury. But over the last few weeks, Liam Kelly will be sitting there looking at Jack Butland, and they'll drive each other on, and they'll be there to support. You see Jack Butland after the game, going up to Liam Kelly. They'll be there to support, but there's no doubt he'll be sitting watching the Motherwell game, in the games where the Dundee game, the game at the weekend, thinking, right, how many more? And if it happens once, maybe twice, you can say, right, come on, cut out the mistakes. These aren't even... They're basic errors that you don't normally see happen maybe every couple of weeks. They maybe happen once or twice a season, but they were happening far too often. So ultimately, it's been the right decision because I remember when Matt McGee was a Motherwell manager, we had a choice to make. And I know Liam Kelly's no young, but as Kris says, when he comes in, he doesn't do anything wrong. There was a choice to make between a centre-back who wasn't really so experienced, but he was far more experienced than the younger centre-back. And his reasoning for choosing the younger one was, he says, if I play him the way he's been playing the older one, I know he's going to make a mistake. if I play the younger one, he might make a mistake, but he might not. So I'm going to play the younger one because I know what I'm going to get for him and I don't know what I'm going to get for him, and he might not make it. So maybe that's part of the reason of, in Jack Butland's current form, he could make that mistake, and if he makes it, everybody knows that he's been making them. Of course he's going to make a mistake.
Did you
so
allow it to
you bring in Liam Kelly, who might make the same mistake. I think
Liam
so.
Kelly.
Yeah, I do.
I think so. Why not?
To the end of the season.
Listen, don't know.
Getting close, I suppose.
It's game after game in it, but I think all Liam Kelly can do is go and perform with the next game, and see where that takes him. I think that, you've got to remember, it's not as if. I know he came through at Rangers and he had to go away to get first team football. It's not a young goalkeeper where you're thinking he can come in for a few games. Yeah. Liam Kelly's he's an established goalkeeper. He's an experienced goalkeeper who's played a lot of minutes. He'll be sitting and thinking to himself, I've now got my chance. I have now got my chance to become the Rangers number one. Listen, I think for Jack Butland, it's probably it could be potentially a crossroads for him as well. Really, if you think about it. He's now found himself back up to Liam Kelly. You go back, a year ago probably around about this time?
Yeah.
Everybody was saying Jack Butland for England.
I know.
It's amazing how it just changes so quickly.
It seems to have been at that exact moment as well.
It's a 3-each for Celtic last year, wasn't it?
Gareth Southgate was watching.
Southgate was there.
Matt O'Reilly penalty and it all sort of changed.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll stay in? And again, where does it leave Jack Butland?
It leaves him where we've both found ourselves as a player, where you either sit there and feel sorry for yourself and blame everybody else, or you knuckle down and work hard and wait for your chance. He's been in that position before throughout his career, Jack. Being a young goalie coming through, waiting for his opportunity, getting decent moves, making mistakes, being dropped out of the team and having to be patient. He's been in that situation before. I expect that it might help him. As much as you don't want that, as much as you don't want taking out the team, it might help him because he'll need to focus. You're not saying that Jack Butland's a bad goalkeeper. No. We know he's a very good goalkeeper, but he's making mistakes that goalkeepers shouldn't be making. You're not saying that it's a debatable where I think he should save that, or he's got a stronger hand to it. It's actually like picking the ball up,
dropping the ball.
Like taking your eye off what you're doing. Is that something that can help him refocus?
What the longer term, and I know it's all hard. We don't even know who the Rangers manager is or what the ownership looks like. So I accept that. But if we could somehow put that to one side, how big's this crossroads that you mentioned? Because Jack Butland, I'd imagine, would be quite a high earner. Are you already looking at that then in the summer as to what that looks like? You could maybe have cashed in on him.
As James touched on there, like Jack, you can tell the way he carries himself. He looks after himself. He'll back himself. I don't think he's really struggling in terms of confidence. He's going through a period right now where it's he's made a few mistakes and even if you are a confident guy, he still dunce you a little bit, and you start to maybe do things. I've never been a goalkeeper, but maybe
I wonder how it feels for the goalies, because when you're going through that spell where you're feeling as if nothing can work, your legs and your feet feel so heavy, don't they? It's like you can't move them. You're like, oh my God, what's happening?
And then throw your hands into that as well.
Arms that can
but I think he carries himself well enough that he'll bounce back from this. It'd be such a knee-jerk risk, for us to sit here and say, these Rangers' career's over. He could bounce back in a couple of weeks' time. You never know. Liam Kelly could start making mistakes. You don't know. The life of a goalkeeper. And there is no doubt that Rangers have got, Jack Butland, a really, really good goalkeeper who's going through a difficult spell right now. He's made more mistakes than, I'm sure he might look at it as well and say, well, I'm having to deal with a lot more as well. Yeah. When you think of the opportunities that Rangers have given up and the shots they've had and the crosses into the box that they've struggled to deal with all season. He might be looking at it saying, well, I've had to deal with a lot more than what normal goalkeepers at Rangers and bigger clubs would have to deal with in recent times. But, at same touch, he's making basic errors that he will know himself. And as I said, he would have been in this position as a number two, as a young goalkeeper coming through, or whatever, back in the day, where he's thinking, I need an opportunity here. I need an opportunity. And that's the exact same place where Liam Kelly is.
The clear the air talks, as they're called. It's one of those that only applies to football. No one else ever has clear the air talks outside the football, I don't think. But that inquest, whatever it was that Barry Ferguson and the players had, can you judge whether it worked or not? Or is, again, because we've seen this all season, Europe just lives separately, so we don't actually know if that was as a result of what's been said after?
You can't judge it because Rangers play well in Europe. They play well in the big games. They get results in the big games. The problem Rangers have had all season is when you need to win, when the expectations on you to be the dominant side, that's been Rangers' problem. So it's hard to tell whether it worked because you're judging, you can't judge Rangers against Athletic Club versus Rangers against Motherwell, St Mirren, Hibs, because it's totally different. So we don't know. Will we be able to tell at the weekend? Potentially.
I think, in a dressing room, if you're asking the question, I think sometimes when it does happen, a lot of the players do feel that relief. In terms of, that they've been able to maybe get it out. You just hope that, and it happens all the time, usually when, players are given a platform to speak, in the following weeks, it's held against some of the ones that have spoken. And Barry's spoken about it, that, it's a clean slate for everybody when he came in. You just hope that, that is still the case. And if anybody's spoken up with concerns, that they are still, they're not going to get cut adrift because it's, we've all been there when you're playing football and everything's rosy, you don't really care. See, when you come out and you're on the bench and you're in the squad, you're looking for everything. That's a problem. That's not doing well. He should be doing this. He should be doing... Everybody's an expert when you're not playing. When you're in the team, you focus on yourself.
Any periods that you've had that you remember that, where you just feel it getting to that stage and you have these big inquests in the dressing room?
Gordon, when I ended, I looked at myself at the end and I was always a bubbly character round about the dressing room, the training, and I would help the youngsters as best. I got to the end and I was moaning at kids, I was moaning at at my teammates, and the reality is, I could still see where I wanted to be. I couldn't get there. And all of a sudden I'm blaming them, play it quicker or take an extra touch so I can get... It was me. I was the problem. I was the problem. But you start to then look and start to blame everybody else, and that's what I'm saying. When you're in the team the season before, I had done really well and you play and you just think, I can just continue to go with this. I should probably have finished that season. But because you've finished top goal scorer, you think, I'll go again, I'll keep going. But the reality is, the following year, it was too much. And I was becoming someone that I didn't want to be. Having a go at kids, the younger boys at school, where I've been that used to helping them. It's behaving differently. And then you're taking it home as well. Any that stand out for you where everybody just says what they need to say and it all gets...
Well, I've had it loads of times. And look, it was a different... I feel old, but it was a different generation of... You had stronger people that... There was clearly talks, but there was arguments daily. There was people, the manager would always dig you out, but the players would dig you out at half time, they'd dig you out full time. You would have your arguments and then you'd move on. But I've had it before as well where, right, we're calling a meeting, things aren't working, we need to clear the air, and some things get said, but you hold back because, Chris's point, back then it would definitely have been held against you. Depending on who you were, it would have been held against you. So a lot of the time you might have a concern and it's like, maybe this isn't the right platform, because sometimes it's a bit of the manager to say, right, what are they thinking? Right, if he's not happy, then he's not playing. So sometimes you are set up. It's not set up, but if you voice exactly how you feel, even though you're told it doesn't work. It used to be the bit when you had the clear talks back in the day and you had always the quiet ones, and the manager, you would have the 5 or 6 that would pipe up in every meeting because they wanted to be heard. Then all of a sudden, the manager, what's your thoughts? Somebody that doesn't speak a lot. I just think, I agree with all of them. But you have it, and sometimes we used to have it without the manager and the coaching staff.
I think that's the key to a good dressing room
discussion.
I think that's the key. The point that James made, that's the key to a good dressing room, and guys that are in it together. Usually, when you're, and I might be wrong here, it seems to be right now that there's been clear the air talks for Rangers every second week right now. Usually, you've won a season. And I think that's down to the older experienced ones running the dressing room, policing it properly. If there is somebody needing a clip around the wings, then that's, you're getting told, cut it out.
See on that then, because you'll have seen Barry Ferguson, the player in the dressing room, you're talking about that, what you're laughing at. Is that the type of thing he obviously would have taken part in as a player, and then...
Take part in what?
Clear the air talks?
Fergie led on the pitch.
Fergie was moaning for the start of training to the end.
That's what I mean. Is that you then seen that coming in to his management style?
I think so. I think if you look at the characters, Neil McCann, you throw into that as well. Two guys that we played with, that if you were slacking off or if they weren't happy, they'd tell you. And look, they weren't always right, but they were constantly on you. There'd be times for encouragement as well, but the standards that they had were that if something was off, they'd tell you. So I think that's what he's trying to bring in. He's not going to get anybody like him in that dressing room, because it was...
Margaret never used to speak in the house. It was just when he was out of the house. That was it. Telling
Get
you.
it all out.
But just come into training and just rant and rave and moan at everybody. But look, I've said this before, I would never have changed him as a captain.
No.
Like, I mean, in terms of on the pitch, he led by example. And even when you were struggling, give me the ball, I'll make things happen. Just give me it. He oozed confidence. And, you know, an unbelievable player that, you know, his management career has... I think you've got to give him credit to an extent in terms of going down the leagues, because it's not easy. We've seen that with other people. It's not easy. So to go down the leagues and then find yourself in a position right now where he is managing, you know, a huge football club with pressures, with everything else that's going on with it right now, it can be difficult. It can be difficult. We've seen more experienced managers, and I'm not saying at Rangers, but at other clubs, more experienced managers struggle to deal with the pressures. And you look at, you know, I think Barry... Yeah, I mean, there'll be some people question some of the things he said, but I think a lot of it is being consistent in terms of Rangers need to get better as a football club. The standards need to, you know, be lifted again, and you know, and that day-to-day going into training, you should enjoy it. Enjoy going to training, train properly, that allows you to perform at the weekend, and enjoy playing at Ibrox. Enjoy playing in front of, you know, the pressures of having to win football games every week, because it doesn't happen anywhere else.
How much does Aberdeen matter then? Because I've been fascinated in the...
Huge. Does it? Honestly, Gordon,
you know, social media already, people forget Saturday now. It's all about
forget
Thursday.
Saturday until they lose.
Until Saturday. You know, that's the problem. 2-0 down at the
It's the same as when people... It's the same as... I mean, I listen to people, you know, with some games, it's a free hit. What does that mean? It's a free... If somebody says it's a free hit, you go somewhere and you lose 5 or 6-0, they're shouting for the manager to be sacked. Oh, you were telling me before the game it was a free hit. I lose 5 or 6-0, and now all of a sudden you're shouting for me to get sacked. It doesn't make sense. You know, Rangers fans demand you win every single game. Do you think they're going up to Pittodrie at the weekend for a holiday? No chance. They need to go up there and win the game. They've already been up there and lost this season. They need to go up, put in a performance that at least the fans can come away and say, you know, there's a bit of fight there. There's a great determination ahead of, you know, what is a huge game in Bilbao.
You can't rest. You can't rest. I know that Rangers' criticism for the players and the management team previously has been that getting up for the games that are no the European games, or the games that are so-called no big games, and there's a criticism there to say, oh, the mentality, but the fans turn around saying, doesn't matter if we lose. Well, that's the same.
This is how you
it's
learn.
kind of the
this
same
is how
thing.
You get that mentality.
But as a player, you need to be at it. Well, the manager might decide, I'm going to make some changes and rest people. That's a different story to saying they don't want to win the game.
But even that as well, the pressure's now on. Like, for example, if it's like, say, I mean, Bajrami, Coslin, Igaman, if these guys have to come in, they've found themselves out of the team in recent weeks. You know, they're now saying, well, you're going to have to go and show us that you're good enough to be here. You would expect there to be an overhaul once again at Rangers in the summer. And if you want to be part of it, you're going to have to go to Pittodrie, you're going to have to go to the grounds between now and the end of the season and show you're good enough to be a Rangers player next year. Don't just turn it up.
It's not the game you can write off as at Aberdeen.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
As Rangers fan, it's no one you say, it doesn't matter.
See, when you look at the rest of these games as well, I mean, in a general sense, I think everyone's kicked the backside out of league reconstruction debates, but I just wonder if this weekend is like the perfect example of why people do like the split.
The split works.
You've got three teams going for that top 6 spot on the final day, and two of them are playing each other in Motherwell and Hearts.
It's happened the last few years. Motherwell have been involved in a few. You remember Livingston a couple of years ago, the late equaliser that sends Motherwell into the top 6.
Why would people want to change that?
Because, look, I think that it's that old one where we get to the point, this point's brilliant, because 3 teams vying for the split, and then, you know, that's the excitement. Then when that's done, the team that just misses out generally has finished on more points than the team that finishes 6th, and they go, I mean, what kind of league's that? Well, that's just the way it works, because you're playing against teams that are not winning games, as opposed to the team that moves up is playing against teams that do.
I wonder if you look at it slightly different this season as well. So we'll get on to Kilmarnock in the context of Celtic, but Motherwell, Hearts, St Mirren, actually getting 6th this weekend
will be a relief.
becomes more about
100%.
avoiding relegation.
100%.
You know, rather than looking up the way, which I'm sure you still do, but actually that's the best way to make sure you stay in this league. The best way is to finish top.
I mean, you've seen Motherwell right now. When you look at Motherwell, I mean, their form hasn't been great. I mean, if they win on Saturday, you know, there's a chance they could get the top 6, depending. I mean, they obviously need St Mirren to drop points as well, but on the flip side of that, as you say, they would be more worried, for me anyway, about what's going on behind them. You know, because, you know, Kilmarnock have started to, you know, win the games here and there. Dundee look as if they're going to score goals. Ross County, listen, you don't know what you're going to get with them. St Johnstone obviously got a great result against Celtic at the weekend there, but I mean, listen, I still think St Johnstone are down. I just can't see a way out it for them.
You haven't proved you wrong last week or anything, no?
No, definitely not. We can go into that if you want, but
let's do it. Let's go straight.
I think for me with Motherwell, I know that their attention right now is on. Beat Hearts, hope St Mirren drop points with a chance of this top 6. But if it doesn't go, that switches straight away, and they're like, "We need a victory.
Aye.
We need to find a victory from something."
That's the one for me. And you'll feel the same. I heard you a few weeks ago saying, "Nah, no chance." I think when you look at the 3 teams, Motherwell's the one that's most in danger of being dragged into the playoff scenario. I think Hearts, if it's Hearts that don't make the top 6, I think Hearts will have enough. I think St Mirren will have enough. I think Motherwell will, but I think they're the team most likely at that 3 to be dragged in, and I hate saying it, but you don't know what you're going to get.
I still think, I mean, Motherwell's had a decent record against Hearts in recent times, especially at Fir Park. I mean, you look at it, I mean, throw them out the window. I think Hearts go to Fir Park and get a result. I mean, they were very unlucky last week. They should have been goals up against Dundee United. Take nothing away from Dundee United, who have, by the way, had an excellent season. Jim Goodwin deserves enormous credit. If you're speaking about managers of the year as well, he deserves to be in the running for that, because to come up from the Championship and you kind of looked at it. I mean, I had them down as 11th at best. So to go and get to the level they've got to consistently, and I don't think they've not been at the top 6 all season. Is that right?
I wouldn't have thought so. Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't think they have. So I mean, it's been an incredible run. But I think Hearts will go to Fir Park and. So
you think Hearts will be?
I think
top
Hearts
6?
will be the team to do it.
So it's the 6.
And if they don't, then all of a sudden the following week for Neil Critchley and Hearts is huge, because with the whole football department revamping the summer, where does that leave him?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, where does that leave?
You've got a head and heart debate here though going on. Yours is a bit different. Who do you think will make that top 6?
I think that Hearts are favourites, just because I think they have been playing well.
Do you fancy St Mirren to beat Ross County?
Yes.
So therefore,
do you know what? I don't know, because you just said it when you spoke about Ross County. Don't know what you're going to get.
Or St Mirren.
And St Mirren are the same. St Mirren could win 5-1 or lose a game 1-0, 2-0. So I think if you were betting, you would go for Hearts. For me personally.
And it would be, how ironic would it be that the man that was dropped last week's the man to shoot Hearts into the top 6?
Lawrence Shankland.
Yeah, obviously James Wilson suspended, isn't he? So Shankland, you'd imagine, will come back in. Listen, it's been a disappointing season for him. It's I think with everything that happened last year from he's expecting probably to kick on this year, and he would move on from Hearts, and everybody would be happy with the contribution he's given. It's not happened this year, but you just wouldn't rule out Lawrence Shankland being the man to score the winner at Fir Park, and Hearts are into that top 6, and then it sets them up for a huge semi-final next week, as I said, because these next 2 games for me, for Neil Critchley, are absolutely massive. Massive.
See Celtic Kilmarnock, how much do you think Brendan Rodgers' comments will have landed for a team who are pretty close to the league title, and in some people's eyes pretty close to the treble? He was really unhappy in Perth. You guys were there. Do you think does that make Kilmarnock's task harder this weekend? I mean, hard already, but do you think they feel? I think the thing for
Kilmarnock last week, they would have felt, looking at the game, we've got our 3 points. We need to go to Celtic Park next week. There's a good chance that Celtic are going to go to St Johnstone, win the game, so they're not going to close on us, and then we can afford to lose the Celtic game, and the one that could relegate us can't get any ground on it. They've got to go to Tannadice. All of a sudden, because St Johnstone beats Celtic, now you're like, nothing changed down the bottom. So I mean, it's just the exact same as what it was. Kilmarnock now have to go to Celtic Park, where you don't expect them to get anything. I think when you go back to last week, there's no doubt that everybody had this as, this was going to be Celtic's party after Rangers lost to Hibs. And last Saturday, everybody thought Celtic are going to go to Perth, get the 3 points, go back home. And, I kind of get the feeling, I don't know what you think, that Brendan Rodgers was probably more fuming. Obviously, the performance raging with, but the chance to go and win the league in front of your fans, it doesn't happen very often. To go and win the league in front of your fans, you've got to go to Perth, St Johnstone, bottom of the league, struggling, win that game, and then you've got a home game against Kilmarnock, live in the TV. Everything was set up for a perfect day at Celtic Park. But listen, for whatever reason, too many of the Celtic players right now are underperforming.
That's the point for me. Yeah. I think that's added massively extra onto it for Brendan Rodgers, that they've given up the chance to win the league at Celtic Park. And look, they win the league, that's going to happen, but I think that's a massive part of it. Also, the fact that so many players are off it. I think there will be a reaction. I don't know if he'll do it.
I had my tickets for Celtic Park on Saturday.
I know. You can't make it, can you?
Yeah. No, I'm busy, mate.
You're not going?
No.
Kilmarnock legend.
It was a difficult one. It's a difficult one. Wow. It was a difficult one. Yeah. It was a difficult one.
Is he trying to get back involved now? They know the league can't be
won. No. I'm going down south.
No, he's made sure he's not there. But I think that I would expect to see some changes, and to be honest, I was expecting changes 2 or 3 games ago, because there's Celtic players that haven't been at the level. Nicholas Kuhn for me, he's not been at the level, and it's no a criticism. I know that there is a big debate to say, Kuhn's been so bad that get rid of him in the summer. Well, that was a good line actually. He's so bad that get rid in the summer. Players can have a dip in form. It happens. He was so good at the start of the season. He was so good up until the Bayern Munich game, and there's been a noticeable drop off since then. And I think that Yang's performances when he's come off the bench or started, he's injured.
James Forrest's back.
I think James. By the way, another one as well. Jota's not been performing either for me. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Maeda back in the left, Forrest in the right, and Ida through the middle, and totally change it up, because I think when you come out, it could go with. He could easily go with Kuhn, Maeda and Jota again, because it's at home, and more or less say to him, listen, you let me down last week, go again and show us why he's at.
This is different though. You're not dropping them, and I know you don't get rested, but you're having to change something. Yeah. You need to change it. It's not like you're turning and saying your performance levels are so bad that you're not playing because as a punishment. But it has to come to a point where.
Do you think he's also aware of?
I think another one as well. Greg Taylor for Sloop is and by the way, Narovsky as well.
Yep.
You look at what
he can't do it.
He can't do it because he's brought.
I think Brendan Rodgers is aware though of the way the mindset always works. That when you start well and tail off, it's like that recency bias thing. That's the bit that you remember. If Celtic had stayed level in the title race till Christmas and then gone 3, 4, 5 and built up to 13 points, and everyone's saying, look at the way they're flying over the finishing line. Similar Nicholas Kuhn, if he starts slow and strong, because you look at, and I know social media is a dodgy world and you should take it all with a pinch of salt, but for some people, generally the mood out there is almost like Celtic could win this treble, but not in the right way, whatever that means.
Look at Hibs in Aberdeen, David Gray and Jimmy Tilling. They've Aberdeen started brilliant. Everybody was saying Tilling was brilliant. Then they go through the bad spell and they go, well, I'm not sure if he's that good. David Gray was in the verge of being sacked. People thought he should be sacked weeks before they get to that point where they win the Ross County game, then they draw at Aberdeen. Finishing the season unbelievably.
And people are saying manager of the year
contender. Look, Hibs manager of the year. But it's pretty similar to what Tilling's done over the course of the season, but that's what happens.
The thing for Brendan Rodgers, because he's a perfectionist, you can tell that he wants everything at a level. That's what he's set his pride on, his managerial career. He wants everything at a level. And there has been times in recent weeks where Celtic have slipped below.
And that's what I mean. If you do that at the end, that maybe hangs over slightly at the summer. You come at the end of the season.
And the flip side, it might help Brendan Rodgers, because he's now able to go to the board and say, look, I'm telling you right now, we need to strengthen. Whereas if you're coasting to another treble, which is going to happen, if you get another treble, Celtic might, as a club, we don't really need to spend that much money. We've done it again. There's other teams maybe getting better and everything, but we've still got far better than what the rest have got. You forget, Celtic spent an absolute fortune this summer. spent a fortune, but they're going to have to go and do it again because, Brendan Rodgers will want to go and do it again because of the European campaign they had, and more importantly, he'll want them in early because the qualifiers. We've seen Celtic come unstuck before where they've left transfers right to the end. He'll want to get his business done right now, and this little dip might give him the strength to actually say, no, I need players in here now.
We mentioned Aberdeen Rangers from the Rangers perspective. Are Aberdeen showing signs? Do you think they're back to the level that they were?
I think they are actually.
The Motherwell performance was pretty good, wasn't it?
I think the performances have been good. I think at the start of the season there was games where they weren't that good, but they won. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think the performance levels are good. They're getting better. Nisbet's scoring goals. I think
something's changed with him though. Kind of feeling he seems to have switched on. Nisbet, for me anyway, I think he's switched on in his game right now.
I think the manager spoke about it a few weeks ago, didn't he, and said that he's been focused on working hard, and people look and go, well, he should be working hard all the time, but clearly he's working harder. He's changed something because, and you know yourself, sometimes a striker you make changes that physically they help you, but mentally. Like for a striker, we talk about strikers and goalies, mentally as much as physically, because you don't want to be in your own head as a striker. You don't want to be second guessing what you're going to do. So he's clearly feeling good about himself that he's getting the rewards with scoring goals. I think Leighton Clarkson's been excellent for them as well. Yeah. Playing
if you're talking about scoring goals, how can you look beyond Simon Murray? He's 33 years of age. There's a Simon Murray for Scotland debate raging on this week because he's been so good. What do you make of that one at Easter Road on Sunday?
I think Hibs will get the 3 points again. You can't help but be impressed with what Hibs have done. I think in terms of there've been a few players out winning as well. Cad and Abita's come in on that left hand side. I think I have had a go at the Hibs hierarchy numerous times for the way they've went through managers and the turnover of players. But you kind of get the feeling that it's different now. You just get that feeling that I think David Gray's come through that rough spell. He's now got himself into a good position. That power of strength as well. There's 15 players out of contract. They've already signed McGrath. You look at Hibs now and think they're not going to carry a huge squad, but they're going to carry quality. They've already got players in there, and by the way, that's all without the captain. I mean, he's disappeared. Where has he been? He's been injured for a while, but he's been out for a while.
But they've not had. See, years gone by, they've had to rely on bringing your Newells back in to make sure. Maybe they're not ready. Their performance, Trantis and midfield's been excellent. I think the back three, and something that probably hasn't been said about Hibs for a long time is they look solid.
Yeah,
they look like a strong team. Defensively sound, great base to play on. I love the fact
it's the same team. They didn't do much in January, and all the players that in November that you said aren't good, and now all of a sudden are.
But the thing is, Gordon, see if you go back to even that period where Hibs were struggling, it was a mistake. It was
they were
bad decision.
Games,
they were just unlucky. It was the odd goal.
Yeah.
You think of Tannadice, they were 2-1 up and ended up losing 3-2. The amount of last minute goals or even injury time goals that Hibs lost at the start of the season was incredible.
Yeah.
And as a manager, you're trying to get it over to you. Listen, we're playing okay. We just need to keep going. We need that little bit of luck. And it changed that night against Aberdeen, 3-3. They changed the formation, and you've got to say since then, what a run it's been. What a run it has been.
That is a great point. It is the same players that everybody's been saying not good enough. You need to get that.
Now it looks like you go, that's a good team.
They've
transformed
solid,
the perception.
like solid.
Win games, changes now.
It's getting to crunch time in the Championship. If Falkirk beat Ayr in the Friday night game, of course, Livy then would have to do their part to stop Falkirk becoming champions. Again, maybe slightly similar to the top flight. It's a question of just when. But you want to, there's no ideal scenario for Falkirk. They can't quite do it on their own.
I don't think they'll care. I don't think they'll care. Well, we like it, and you say, right, it's great if you win it, and they say on your own, you win it. But they've won it. They've won it on their own anyway. So I don't think they'll care. Honestly, for them to come up for League One and play the way they've played and be as dominant as what they have, they won't care one jot whether they win it tonight, tomorrow, next week. As long as they go up, which they will do, I don't think they'll care.
They've been away for a long, long time. Falkirk they're a decent size. They're a big, club in Scotland. They'll be a welcome addition to the Scottish Premiership next season. I think when the job that John McGlynn has done there to take them from where they were to where they are right now is incredible. I think we spoke about this a while ago when they recruited for Division 1 or League 1, sorry. It was championship.
They were ready.
It was a team. I'm building a team here to take us on this journey. I think they're probably ahead of schedule, but at the same time, they would have looked at it and said, we've got a chance in this championship this year. Obviously, Livingston coming down, they were going to lose a few players. I thought, they've done well to keep the nucleus. They've added some good additions, but there's something just different about Falkirk as well. The way they play, they're entertaining. Everybody's bought into it. The crowds will be back, and as I said, for me, I think they'll be a great addition to the Scottish Premiership.
But not handcuffed to that either, because it gets to January and they bring in someone like Scott Arfield.
Yeah.
So but they also sign players for Lower League, East of Scotland League. He brings in the right type of players. I know we're going to speak about Scott Arfield, but I think you look at the players that he signs, they're like not broken, but they're maybe unfancied young players that have lost their way. He brings them in, gives them a platform to play. They're attacking. The games that we watch now are quite robotic and they're quite boring. A lot of them. He brings in wingers that want to go and take people on, and if once they're done, he changes them, and they go and want to take people on. And exciting team. It is boring sometimes, isn't it?
It's like, obviously this is me on the outside and looking at the kind of the storylines and whatever. I like it though when the storyline delivers. So Scott Arfield signs back for Falkirk. I mean, it's all there. We've done it. It's the fairy tale. He's returning. He's got the number on the back that means so much to him and the families and the club and so on. But the next bit is you then need to back that up. It's not just a storyline. Go and contribute on the pitch.
I think it's perfect.
He took his time to get settled, didn't he?
30
seconds.
seconds.
Was a hat trick in the first day, wasn't it? I think when you look at Scott Arfield as well, he's a modern day footballer, isn't he? He's still going at this age, looks after himself, still wants to encourage, always playing with a smile on his face as well, enjoys his football, and you've got to give him a lot of credit because he went to America, came back, went to Bolton, it didn't really work, but his love for the game is still there, and he felt as if he could still make a difference to Falkirk. And I bet you, if you go and speak to John McGlynn now as well, I bet he has made some difference from, they've been flying, done really, really well, even that short period of time, he will have, those young boys looking up to him and saying, he's still performing and training like us at that age. We can only learn off him. So, I think John McGlynn and Falkirk deserve a lot of credit for doing the deal. But as you say, it was a fairy tale story, but you've then got to go and deliver. Scott Arfield's done that.
Speaking of finding out how the storylines finish, what about Neil Lennon at Dunfermline then? So gets the win, then loses. A poor result on the back of that. He's angry, he's frustrated already, maybe seeing the size of the task that faces him.
Tight, I mean, when you look at that table, I mean, Queen's part of a team that are 8 defeats in a row, but you kind of look. I mean, 4 games left? They're 6 points ahead of Verge.
They're now doing well though.
Yeah, I know, but it's still, to go and win, you need to pick up 2 wins just to get level with them. Dunfermline, obviously, at the weekend's a bad one against Hamilton. John Rank would have needed that. I mean, when you see some of the pelters he's been getting for the Hamilton fans, wow. So, you think when Neil Lennon's obviously a story because he just went in there and it's Neil Lennon, but they've got work to do. Again, we speak about Falkirk in terms of the size of the club, and doesn't mean that you're going to have success when you come up. I mean, Dunfermline are huge. I mean, they took over 7,000, nearly 7,500 at the game last week. That's big pressure for players to perform in. And, they're a big club. They've been underperforming now for a number of years. And, if Neil Lennon can just get them over the line, you would expect, them potentially to kick on next year because, I would imagine Neil's probably got something in place if he keeps them up. There'll be money coming in. He'll want to get his own players in and kick on for there. But they've got some work to do.
Who is in real trouble? Can you separate them all? Are they all similar? Or Queen's Park? Are people looking at them because of the drop off, the 13 goals and
as I say, they're doing 27. They need
the contrast to the Rangers game, obviously.
Yep. Queen's Park are the team that, I mean, they're ahead of the 3 teams, obviously. But I just think that it looks like they're in freefall. They're a team that they're conceding goals, they don't score goals. There's the talk off the pitch about the investment in the youth system, and that's damaging. The manager's obviously left. Steve McLean's gone in and taken over to the end of the season. But you've got Airdrie who are winning games. They look like a good side. You've got Dunfermline who can win games. and there's no there's a bit of a lift because Neil Lennon's gone in, and Hamilton as well. I just is it maybe they're going to be lucky that the games are running out, that they won't be caught because, as you say, the points difference. But they're the team you look at and say, I fancy Dunfermline could win a game. I fancy Airdrie could win a game. I fancy Hamilton could win a game. The way you look at Queen's Park, you think, where is the win coming from? How are they going to get the win?
Queen's Park, Dunfermline, it's huge. It's huge. Absolutely. I mean, because if Dunfermline...
6 points?
No such thing. But if Dunfermline go there and win...
Does he say there's no such thing?
He does it like a 6 pointer.
Maybe 6 points for winning a game of football, mate. It's 3 points. 3 points the max you can get.
Literal, Kris. Thanks for
3
that.
points the max you can get.
Thanks for pointing that out. You deny your rivals the points and you get your own.
It's a 6 pointer, mate.
It's
I love this notion.
it's the same as what do you call it? You know, when
you do realise though that people that say it don't actually think you get the 6 points.
Some do. Some do.
You clearly did. You must have at one point went, where's my 6 points? I'm only getting 3.
I'm daft. I'm not that daft.
Anyway, right, into League One then, because our friend of the show, he's been on here, and a guy you know well, Charlie Mulgew, 11 games at Kelty.
It's not easy, is it?
That's what I'm saying though. Like, does it just highlight again, in case we needed any further proof, that so much can go wrong? You might get things wrong, and I'm sure he would say that he
What did you say there?
You get the...
You might get things... I'll never get one thing wrong.
Not you personally.
Just checking, mate. Just checking.
Collective, plural. The environment might... players, there's just so many moving parts. Again, I'm sure you get ideas.
Listen, you can make all the excuses.
11 games.
Everybody can make all the excuses they want. It's no easy.
Yeah.
Football management ain't easy. You know, and I mean, I know Charlie was obviously coaching at Hamilton, but, you know, when you go from the level that Charlie's been at to, you know, helping youngsters and trying to develop them, going into a working environment where, you know, players and by the way, we can say what we want about Kelty. They've been successful. Kelty have been successful. Yeah. You know, when you think over the period of time where they've got to, you know, they were in a decent position when Michael Tidser left to go to Dunfermline. Hence the reason why they went and took him. So, you know, it wasn't an easy job getting into. And you've got to say, I mean, there's no getting away from it. I mean, they've got worse. There is no doubt they've got worse. You know, whether it's enough to put Charlie off of management, you don't know. As I said, I think when you come out the game and you're always like, you know, you're always enthusiastic about, I want to coach, I want to help, I want to manage. It's no easy. Yeah. It's no easy. You know, and I think that it might be a wake-up call for Charlie in terms of where he wants to go. Does he go back into coaching? Does he stick to the media? Only Charlie can answer that. But, you know, as I said, it's been a tough few weeks from him. Yeah. And when you look at the performance last week, I mean, 6-0 at home to Dumbarton. They're already relegated. That just can't be happening. No.
I think when you're coming towards the end of your career, you think you're going into coaching and you're trying to, you know, watch games in a different way. You're trying to get ideas and you've got all these plans. But ultimately, you don't know what you're getting into. You've just said it. You don't know the situation at the club. You're maybe, especially a lot of the time when you do your coaching badges, they're geared towards a professional environment. I'm not saying they're unprofessional, but like a full-time professional environment where you maybe have, you know, a set amount of players and all the rest of it, and you know what you're coming into, and you've got a bit more control and time to work. And when you're getting into a part-time environment, you're training twice a week. Maybe, you know, you've got all these plans to say, right, I'm going to tell them this and we're going to work on that, and we'll see that happening. These things take time. They take time, but the reality is you can have the best plans in the world. You don't know what you're facing until you go in and actually have to deal with it. And maybe some problems you've no thought about come up and you don't know how to deal with them. And that's all part of your learning. And Charlie's obviously found it very tough. I hope it doesn't put him off, because he was really enthusiastic about getting in and trying to coach. I hope he takes it as a lesson and tries to learn to get better for it.
I think what it does show as well, though, like, you know, we're quite quick, and I mean every country's the exact same, and you know, we've obviously got more part-time teams than a lot of you know, countries playing at, you know, a decent level as such. But you've got to take your hat off to a lot of the managers who, you know, consistently, you know, part-time level, twice a week game, and do really, really well. Yeah. You know, we look at, you know, the top divisions and think, you know, what a job they're doing. But these guys are the ones who, you know, that there's some clubs, 500-600 people are going to games, but they're still there every single week. Even when they lose their job, they're desperate to get back in, knowing fine well that is the level. but it's just the love of the game. They just want to be there. They want to help people, and you've got to pay a lot of respect to the guys because they deserve it. It's no easy, and going from that full-time environment to the part-time, people coming off the work, people not making changes sometimes. It's not easy, but as I said, Charlie will obviously learn for that, and you'd like to think you might have a wee chance of bouncing back, but you never know because it was that bad, wasn't it?
What a profound note to finish on, the love of the game from Kris Boyd. We'll just
I love the game, mate.
Hug each other and move on. A bit lonely on this side of the table this week, but thank you very much to James McFadden and Kris Boyd. There are 6-pointers all over the country this weekend. Don't let him tell you any different. We will see you next time on The Warm-Up, brought to you by William Hill, a proper supporter of the SPFL.